vegetarian even if you never want to be one. Which, when I read that, I thought that was the most amazing book title in the world. And she's also, how to say no without feeling guilty, which is something I, as a flexitarian, have struggled with before, saying no, especially if someone worked really hard to, make something. She's the founder and director of the Marin Vegetarian Education Group and the co-founder of Dharma Voices for Animals. She's also on the advisory council for animals for the Animal and Society Institute, and was many years a publishing consultant to some of the vegetarian world's best leaders. And she has been teaching cooking classes for 15 years. Wow.
15, not 50. 15. Right.
No, 15 is still a really big number. So, without further ado, are you ready?
Thank you, Rain. I'm ready.
Yeah, thank you. All right, take it away.
So the first thing I have to say is thank you for coming. The second thing I have to say is, in printing up the recipes, which I'm going to hand out for today, I forgot an ingredient, and I just hand wrote it on the top, but I'm going to tell everyone what it is so everyone writes it in, because if you try this at home, you want that ingredient. It's a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. And as I was packing up today, I was using the list as my packing list to make sure I had everything. And I'm putting everything in, and everything was checked off, and I said, I don't remember packing the pepper. I know the recipe calls for pepper. And I went back, and I forgot to put it in, because I was typing from a book. And the book is one of my favorite books. I forgot to bring my own book to show you, the How to Eat Like a Vegetarian, even if you never want to be one. So you just have to remember that title, but it's also all over my handouts. But the book I'm sharing one recipe from today is not my book, but it's a book by Joanne Stepaniak called The Uncheesed Cookbook. And if you're thinking about giving up dairy, which you should be thinking about, this book will help you do it, because this is plant-based alternatives to virtually any cheese you can think of. She's got great recipes based on either tofu or beans or nuts, different recipes for different cheeses, but the texture and the flavor is very similar to dairy cheeses. And it's much better for the animals and much better for you to be making those cheeses not from the animals. Also, if you missed this morning, Miyoko Shinner has a new book coming out in about a month or two that's all vegan cheeses, and her cheeses are phenomenal. So if you get a chance to get Miyoko's new book about vegan cheeses, it'll be out in a few weeks. Don't miss that book either. So I'm going to hand these out, but please remember on this middle recipe that's called Recipes from the Ultimate Uncheesed Cookbook by Joanne Stepaniak, add a 1/4 teaspoon pepper. Make sure that it says that. Please take one and pass it down, and you can take one and pass them back and down. Anyway, so when I became a vegan in 1986, cheese was the hardest thing for me to give up. And now it's much easier to buy commercially made vegan cheeses, and there's a cheese called Daiya cheese, D-A-I-Y-A, that a lot of pizza places around the Bay Area are now adding to their vegan pizzas. Nevertheless, when you're in a hurry and you don't want to buy Daiya cheese and you want something really, really, really simple, the first recipe I'm going to make is one of the simplest things you can do to substitute for a cheese spread. Remember Velveeta? Did anyone ever eat Velveeta? Does anyone still eat Velveeta? Do they still make Velveeta? It's quite disgusting. Anyway, one of my go-to meals is tortillas, just a tortilla, corn tortilla, or a whole wheat chapati, which is like a giant whole wheat tortilla, spread with some kind of spread, either a vegan mayonnaise or what we're going to make today, and then leftovers. You can put leftover salads, leftover restaurant food, leftover anything. Hi, David. There's a seat up here if you'd like, and there are two over there. Anyway, so this is what we're going to make first, is a dip. And my stepson David loves this as a dip, but when he's not coming over and he doesn't eat it as a dip, I use it as a spread. And I spread it on tortillas, and then I'll put steamed broccoli on top, and then I'll add some salsa from a jar, and that's a broccoli tortilla, really easy. I'll also put this on baked potatoes. I'll also use it to stuff peppers with. If you take a red pepper and cut it in half, you can put this in the middle, and it's a creamy, creamy filling for a red pepper. And then you can garnish it with green onions, you can garnish it with sprouts, you can garnish it with anything you want, but it's colorful and it's delicious and it's rich and creamy. If you're trying to eat less fat, you can make the same recipe. Instead of using cashews, you can make the same recipe with chickpeas. But I like to make it with cashews because it's very, very creamy and rich. Now, the nice thing about vegan cooking is it's hard to mess up. If you don't have the right ingredient, you can substitute another ingredient. If you don't have enough of something, use less of it. If you have too much of something, use more of it. It's really hard to mess up vegan cooking because everything is good, and everything is good for you, and everything's delicious. So I'm going to start with organic raw cashews. And it's so funny when when they asked me if I would do a cooking demo at this event, I said, absolutely. And here's what I want to cook. And I got an email back and said, is everything vegan? And I said, absolutely, I only cook vegan. And then she asked, why do you call it vegetarian? And I always call my cooking classes vegetarian because I don't want to scare people away. A lot of people are afraid of the word vegan. And I'm trying to urge everyone to move toward a vegan diet, but wherever you are on the spectrum, whether you're just dipping your toes into vegetarianism, or you've been a vegetarian for years and you're just dipping your toes into veganism, or you've been a vegan for years and you just want new recipes, everyone's welcome at the vegan table. Vegan food will serve vegans and vegetarians and meat eaters. So there's no reason to apologize for vegan food. It will serve the whole spectrum, and wherever you are is good, because you're more conscious than most people who wouldn't be caught dead at a Berkeley Vegan Earthday event. So thank you for coming to the event, and wherever you are on the spectrum, I'm happy to see you here. Okay, so I'm going to put about 2 cups, roughly, of raw cashews. And then I'm going to open this jar of organic roasted red peppers. You can roast your own red peppers very easily in an oven, or you can make this recipe with raw red pepper if you're a raw foodist. You can do this with raw red peppers. It's just a little bit different. And then I'm going to put a few of these roasted red peppers in here, probably 2 because I had 2 cups, and then maybe a little bit more, maybe 3 to make it a little redder. And then I'm going to add the liquid from the jar, which is mostly vinegar and seasonings. You can use water instead. Sometimes I will use water instead of the liquid from the jar. And then I'm going to make a lot of noise. The trick to this recipe is you have to let it go a long time to make it smooth. I'm from New York and I speak really loudly. So I'm going to try to speak over this. And what I'm going to do while this is going is tell you my new food jokes, because I just learned a whole bunch of new food jokes. So you have to listen carefully, and I apologize for the noise. Can you hear me? Why did the tomato go out with the prune? Because she couldn't find a date. And then we stop and we scrape down the sides. I have more. It's not smooth yet. I have more jokes. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's good. Go to the head. Who said that? You get the first food sample when we hand out the food samples. That's very good. Okay, here's the next one. What is small and red and speaks in a whisper? A horse radish. I'm going to let that go and tell you a few more. Okay. What's a honeymoon salad? Let us alone with no dressing. Let us alone with no dressing. Very good. Okay. Why was the tomato blushing? Because she saw the salad dressing. Okay, and one more. A man goes to the doctor and he has celery coming out of his nose and carrots coming out of his ears. And the doctor says, wait, don't say a word. I can tell just by looking at you, you're not eating right. Sorry. Okay. This one isn't a food joke, but it's still cute. The invisible man makes an appointment at the doctor's office, and when he gets there, the receptionist says, I'm so sorry, the doctor can't see you. Oh, I think they're so funny. Oh, do you know why cannibals won't eat clowns? Cannibals will never eat clowns because they taste funny. I need recipes that are just a little bit shorter than this so that I can not run out of jokes. Rain, if you're going to help me plate, I can show you what we're going to do, because basically, instead of crackers, I'm going to use just cut up veggies. So each plate can get a carrot and a celery, and I'm going to put 2 things on each, 2 of the dips, and the green smoothie will go in the little cups, but we can put all 3 things on each plate.
Okay, great. And I just really wash my hands too.
Okay, so. Thank you.
Yeah.
So this is ready to put on plates now. Pardon?
One of each or 2 of each?
1 carrot, 1 celery stick, and 2 different dips are going to go on each plate. Okay, so this is the spread. You saw it only has 2 ingredients, 3 if you include the liquid. It's really easy, it's really delicious, it's very colorful. And as I said, I like it on bread on a sandwich instead of mayonnaise or veganese. I like it on tortillas as a spread, and then you can add any steamed vegetable or cold vegetable or leftover salad. That's a great thing to do with leftover salads, is put them on a tortilla and roll it up. But you want to spread something on the tortilla first. This is it. It's also a marvelous dip. And if I'm in a hurry going to a potluck, this is a great dip to bring because everybody likes it. And you can dip it with vegetables. And again, if you don't like the fat, you can make it with chickpeas instead of cashews, and it's much lower in fat, a little bit liquidier, a little more liquidy. Thank you. And here's a spoon. So you can just put a little bit of there. Okay, the next one I'm going to make is, oh, you know what? I'm going to empty this into a bowl because I need the same machine for the next one. I want to recommend that everybody do what I do. Wouldn't you love to rule the world if I ruled the world? I only cook one day a week. I usually cook on Sunday afternoons, and I make about 6 different things. And if you're cooking from really simple cookbooks like The Peaceful Palate by Jennifer Raymond or my book, How to Eat Like a Vegetarian, even if you never want to be one, if you're cooking from simple cookbooks, it's really easy to make 2 soups, a casserole sort of thing, and 1 other thing, and 2 salads, or prepare all the salad things. So when you get home, at the end of the day, everything is already ready, and all you have to do is pick and choose like a salad bar. So I'll prepare the greens. Here's an example. This green spinach, I'll wash it and dry it and put it in a bag with a cloth napkin or a paper or a cloth towel. And then when I'm hungry, I just grab the pre-washed spinach, throw the pre-cut celery or red pepper on it. Whatever I want to put on my salad, I often use avocado. I often use radicchio, the red radicchio. That I don't cut in advance because it's so easy to just cut it up. But basically, I throw together a salad in like 2 minutes. I'll make 2 or 3 salad dressings on a Sunday. And then I have a choice during the week when I come home and I'm hungry, everything's ready. You just sort of grab it out of the refrigerator. So I highly recommend doing that. Thank you. I'm going to just rinse. The other advantage of only cooking once a week is you really and truly don't have to wash everything thoroughly. I'm just going to rinse this off and then go to the next dish. And if a little bit of this flavor's in the next dish, who cares? It's all vegan and it's all delicious. So I'm going to rinse this off if I can get to the sink here. Excuse me, please. Okay, we're just going to put some water to clean the blades. Watch out for splashing behind me in case this starts getting a little more violent. So I told you all about myself. Now I want to know about you. Raise your hand if you're not yet a vegetarian. Anyone here exploring the world of vegetarianism? Good for you. You go to the front of the sample line and you go to the front of the sample line. So you're number 3, you're number 2, and whoever jumped out with that funny line before is number 1. Anyway, anybody here a vegetarian is thinking about moving toward veganism? Wonderful. Good for you. Good for you. Good for you. And I'm presuming the rest of you are somewhere in the vegan world. Raise your hand if you're in the vegan world. Okay, so those of you moving toward it, look how normal we look. We're not all crazy. Anyone who just raised their hand is somebody who is really on the cutting edge of what the world's going to have to do one day, and we're just doing it before we have to do it. It's the kindest thing to do for the planet and for the animals, but it's also good for us, and I think about the health benefits as a side effect. It's like, okay, it's good for me, but even if it weren't good for me, I'd be doing it for the animals. There's a woman named Jennifer Raymond who wrote a fabulous cookbook called The Peaceful Palate. It's my favorite cookbook. It's really, really simple, delicious recipes. I knew her 25 years ago, and I was once at a cooking demo she did, and somebody said, but what if you don't like to cook? That was the question. What if you don't like to cook? And her answer offended me terribly when I heard it. And it took me a few years to catch on to how revolutionary and out there and brilliant her answer was. Her answer was, learn to like to cook. Learn to like to cook. And until I became a vegan, I hated to cook. I didn't like touching eggs. I didn't like touching fish. I didn't like touching dead pigs or chickens. It was just disgusting. And when I became a vegan, it was like, wow, this is fun. It's like playing. It's like playing. So the next thing I'm going to make, you can make with any white bean. You can soak beans overnight or you can buy canned beans. I think I'll use cannellini beans today, but you can use Great Northern beans or any other organic bean. I highly recommend Eden Organic. They're one of the few companies that makes canned beans that don't use that chemical in the lining of the cans, whose some initial, I don't remember, PCB or PBC, or there's some bad plastic lining that a lot of canned foods has. And this is one of the brands that doesn't use it. But often, I brought my own sink for this kind of thing. Now, normally I would rinse this off to get some of the salt out, but I'm just going to use a little less salt in the recipe. So, oh, come on, you can do it. Remind me if we have time later. I have a joke where come on is one part of the punchline, but okay, so I'm starting now. This recipe is from the Uncheese Cookbook, but as I wrote here, if anyone came in late, make sure you add a 1/4 teaspoon or more of pepper to this recipe because I forgot the black pepper. But anyway, this recipe is from the Ultimate Uncheese Cookbook, and the cookbook calls it a boursin, which is a French peppery cheese. I never, ever, ever tell anyone that I'm making a vegan boursin. I don't call it a vegan cheese. I call it a white bean dip. If you call it a vegan boursin, people are going to be comparing it to dairy cheese that's called boursin, and it's different enough that people are going to think you're a quack. Unlike the new book coming out from Miyoko, where her cheeses are really like real cheeses. I mean, they're like dairy cheeses, rather. They're real plant-based cheeses. These cheeses approximate dairy cheeses. But they approximate them closely enough that they're just as delicious and just as fulfilling, but they're not really like cheese. So I call it a white bean dip. So even though in the book it's called a boursin, trust me, call it a white bean dip if you're serving it for other people. So there, I have that. It's going to call for 2 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, which I put in a container from Lydia's. Does everyone know about Lydia's? Lydia's Organic is a vegan restaurant in Fairfax, California, and I highly recommend it. Okay, so it calls for 2 tablespoons. 1, 2. Okay, and it calls for, umabashi plum paste. Okay, this I buy in bulk, but you can buy it at any natural food store. Umabashi is a kind of fermented plum, and it's used in a lot of sushi recipes. There's a taste called umami. They're salty, sweet, bitter, and umami. It's kind of a deliciousness or a creaminess or a texture. And a lot of people who say they can't eat vegan, they miss meat, they can't stand a whole plant-based diet, they're missing that umami taste. And it's found out that most fermented foods provide a lot of that umami taste. So this is a fermented red plum, very popular in Japan. It's very salty, and you never want to make it the star of the show. It's always used as an ingredient. But it adds a certain something to this recipe that's indescribable. So I highly recommend it. You can also buy vinegar called umabashi vinegar. That's a vinegar made from that fermented plum. So 1 tablespoon of umabashi paste. This I buy in bulk. A friend of mine bought this at Rainbow Market in San Francisco. I buy it at the Good Earth Natural Food Store in Fairfax. They have it also at Whole Foods. And I'm just putting a tablespoon in. And you don't have to buy it in bulk. They sell it in little jars in most natural food stores. And they say if you have a cold, especially in the winter months, if you buy the umabashi plum itself, not the paste made from it, and you put one of those plums in a cup of hot water, it's supposed to be really good for a cold. It's supposed to boost your immune system.
It's good for stomach aches also.
Thank you.
So in Japan, they always give a kid who's got a tummy ache a liver-washing plum.
I didn't know that. But anyway, it's an acquired taste because it's very, very intense and salty. But once you acquire the taste, it's really good. Okay, then we're going to do 1 teaspoon dried basil. I want to say something about my herbs. You'll notice most of them are in jars that don't look like herbs started in them. You can save a fortune by buying in bulk. If you buy your herbs in bulk, they're about at least half, if not more, at least half as expensive. I don't know how to do that backwards. At least half as expensive as buying herbs in the herb bottle. This is an herb bottle, certified organic thyme, but the thyme in here is not what came in the bottle. This bottle is about 6 years old, and I just buy the herbs in bulk and replenish in the bottle. So, we are going to add a teaspoon of dried basil. A teaspoon of dried basil. And whenever I see a teaspoon, I always do heaping teaspoons. I like to be over generous with herbs because herbs are what give food their flavor. So I always make it heaping unless it's important not to make it heaping. If the recipe says scant teaspoon, then I won't make it heaping. Okay, 1 teaspoon. I'm going to do the ones I did over here so I don't get confused. Basil marjoram. How much marjoram? 1 teaspoon marjoram. 1 teaspoon marjoram. Okay. Half a teaspoon dried thyme. You can use fresh herbs, absolutely. I don't have a lot of fresh herbs where I live. The only fresh herb I'm going to use, though, is rosemary, because I have fresh rosemary, because it grows like a weed. If you don't have fresh rosemary at your house, you probably have a neighbor who does. Rosemary grows all over the Bay Area like a bush, like a weed. And if I can grow it, anyone can grow it, because I have a black thumb. I can't grow hardly anything. This is what rosemary looks like. And I'm just going to take some off the stem and put it right in there. Slide your thumb down the stem and all the little leaves come off. So the rosemary will be fresh. And did I put the thyme in? Did I put thyme in?
Yeah, you did.
Thank you. Okay, now what's missing from the recipe is pepper. Black pepper is what makes borsan borsani, so you want to make sure you have black pepper. And it calls for a 1/4 teaspoon, I think, or more. A 1/4 teaspoon or more, so I do a heaping 1/4 teaspoon. And then a little bit more. Because I like the more. Okay. So, and it calls for garlic. Now, I have never made it with roasted garlic. The recipe says roasted garlic or pressed garlic or chopped garlic. What does it say? Crushed fresh garlic. Well, a garlic press is a little device that I used to make fun of, like only foodies had it, but I use it all the time. It's like a little scissor with a box for the garlic. You put the clove of garlic, you squeeze it, and it comes out with squeezed garlic. So I'm going to add this garlic. How much does it call for? And where's the garlic? Isn't it? Okay, or 1/2 teaspoon crushed fresh garlic. Well, this is a little more than 1/2 teaspoon, but what the heck. Like I said, with most vegan cooking, it doesn't matter if you put a little more or a little less. Now, what happened to the spatula? Are you using the spatula over there?
You need it?
I do, but I can trade you a spoon.
Well,
Here's another spoon.
I don't know who's getting the better half of this deal.
there you go. Can I lick it first?
No, thanks. I am going to rinse this off just so that we don't have to be so obvious about sharing equipment between recipes. Now, this dip is fabulous on baked potatoes. What we're about to make is called the white bean dip, and it's really good on baked potatoes. It's also really good as a spread and as a dip. And on crackers, it's very elegant. And if you want to be especially elegant, at Whole Foods, they sell a cracker with only 2 ingredients. It looks like Triscuit, but it's just wheat and salt are the only ingredients. And it's much better than Triscuit because it doesn't have preservatives and all it has is wheat and salt. If you serve some of this dip on that, you can add a caper on top, just 1 caper, and it's very elegant. Or you can add a slice of red pepper, and it's gorgeous. So this is another very versatile dip/spread. And you can put a dollop of this in soup, just on top of the soup. It's really nice. Okay. It doesn't take as long as the other one, so I'm not going to tell jokes this time. Ideally, you're supposed to refrigerate this overnight, and it does get a little thicker and a little more intense, but I seldom refrigerate it overnight because I never think the day in advance to make it, and it's still good. And if you do refrigerate it overnight, the book says it will last like 5 days in the refrigerator. It never lasts that long because people like it. So don't worry about how long it lasts. It's going to go fast. I love it. It's very salty. I have to warn you, it's doubly salty. It won't be this salty if you have a real sink and kitchen because you rinse the canned beans before you make it. So if you can't handle sodium, this is not for you. Now, instead of crackers, we're serving it today on a little piece of carrot and a little piece of celery, just so that you can experience it. Good enough. Thank you. Oh, the cups weren't, it doesn't matter, but I was going to put the 2 spreads right directly on here, and the cups are for the green smoothie.
Oh, that's what we like stopped. We only did it for.
Okay.
We figured it out.
Okay.
Later on. Yeah.
No worries. No worries.
There you go.
Okay, now, for breakfast, a lot of vegans have trouble. What am I going to eat for breakfast? And most vegans I know for breakfast have oatmeal. It's like a no-brainer. It's easy. So oatmeal with flax seeds, and oatmeal with berries, and oatmeal with brown sugar, and oatmeal with fruit, and oatmeal, you can do a lot with oatmeal. However, oatmeal is so fast and easy to make. I save it for a snack. I like to eat oatmeal late in the afternoon if I'm hungry, or if I'm in a hurry at dinner time and I just don't know what to eat. That's when I'll do oatmeal. For breakfast, I like a green smoothie. And a green smoothie is just like a fruit smoothie, but you're adding greens to it. The typical green smoothie that I like best is on the bottom here. What I usually have for breakfast is kale or collard greens with a banana. That's the given. A banana and liquid makes a smoothie. And then I add fruit. Sometimes blueberries, sometimes peaches, sometimes apples, sometimes pears, sometimes oranges. Whatever's in season, whatever I have on my counter, the fruit goes in the smoothie with the greens. But one of the mildest green smoothies you can make for people who aren't used to green smoothies, because kale and collards are an acquired taste, and I encourage you to acquire that taste. They're delicious. And I add a little cinnamon to the smoothie, because if you add cinnamon, it's easier to get used to the taste of kale or collards. Mustard greens are even more of an acquired taste. All the other wild greens, beet greens you can use. Anytime you have dark leafy greens, you can put them in a smoothie. Kale, collards, chard, they're all good. But spinach is the mildest, so if you're new to it, you might want to start with spinach. There's an event that raises money for some cancer organization that let's not go there. We'd rather reduce the risk of getting cancer than treat cancer. But there's an organization that puts on a 24-hour event to raise money for cancer research. And one year I made green smoothies for breakfast for the morning after everyone had camped over all night. The kids get out of the tent and they run and they taste the green smoothie, and then they drag their parents back to taste it because they say, "Mommy, this is so good, you have to try it." If you've never seen a child telling the parent what they have to eat and it's green, it was like a miracle. I can't believe it. Even my own grandkids like this smoothie. So this is one of the simplest ones in the world. It's basically green spinach, and you can use baby spinach or grown-up spinach. It doesn't matter as long as it's washed and dried. So again, I wash it one day and dry it and then put it in a bag with some kind of cloth to absorb the extra moisture. And one of the other tricks is you don't close the bag up. You leave the bag open. The way it's sold in the store is open, and then they spritz it every few hours in most stores if you're buying it in bulk. So the trick is to put something to absorb the liquid in the bag, but also don't seal up the bag. Leave it in your refrigerator like this, so the air is getting to it, and it lasts a couple days that way. Hi, Abraham. Okay, so we're putting a handful of that in, and then we're going to put some frozen mangoes in. And usually I use a scissor at home, so I hope my nails are there. My nails are sharp enough to do this. Now, there are a lot of us here, so I'm using the whole package, but at home you can probably use a third or a quarter of a package per person per smoothie. I may even use the second bag here, because there are more of us than I expected. And as I said, I thank you for coming. You could have been at Michael Clapper's talk. If you don't know Michael Clapper, he's one of the first vegan physicians we've ever known in the vegan movement, and he's a brilliant man with the kindest heart. Does anyone have keys or something sharp to open this with?
I have a knife.
That would be great. I didn't bring a knife because I didn't think I need. Oh, here's the garlic press I was telling you about. I was describing it. So you put the garlic in here, 1 clove at a time, and you squeeze. Now, my friend Dominique says you don't have to take the skin off first, and you don't if you're really strong. Thank you. But where'd the bag go? But I like to take the skin off first. Thank you. Okay, a little bit more. And then most of my smoothies, I use water. But for this one, I'm using vanilla soy milk, just to make it more like a dessert than a breakfast smoothie, because this is really sweet and really creamy. Now, I want to say a word about blenders. This is a Vitamix, and they advertise a lot, and they're very expensive, and forgive me, Vitamix people, but I don't love it. There are 2 reasons I don't love it. The bottom doesn't come off. I thought when I bought it for that much money, it should replace my food processor. No, I still need the food processor because for gooey things, you can't really get at the bottom. The blade is there. Also, I don't like that the container is plastic. My old blender was glass. So if you're thinking about spending like $200 or more on a Vitamix, my advice is don't. Stick with the glass blender because the bottom comes off and it's much easier to get out gooey things. You can't even make hummus in here. It's too hard to get the bottom out. That's why I really thought this would replace that, but it doesn't. So I love these people and they do good work and they show you how you can make soup in one thing. And it's very convenient. It's very powerful. And if you're using flax seeds in your smoothie in the morning, you don't have to pre-grind them. You can just put them in here and it will grind them up. But I still grind my flax seeds separately with a coffee grinder because I sprinkle them on other things besides the smoothie. So I don't recommend Vitamix. Save your $100, $200, $300. It's very expensive. And if you still dream of one, by all means get one. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just not as convenient as the regular glass blenders from other brands. This is making about 40 ounces, and those are 1 ounce cups, so I think there's going to be enough.
Yeah.
You think so? Yeah. Are there fewer than 40 people here?
You can make it into more than 40.
Should I add more liquid?
No.
Or just pour it half full instead of all... Oh, hello. Thank you, Kalpana. Takes a village. Sure. Yeah, those can be passed out. But wait, before you pass them out, there are 3 people. Raise your hand if you're one of the people who gets the samples first. You were one, and who? You were one. Raise your hand to be first to get the samples, and then everybody else will get them. I want to be true to my word. When I heard I had a half hour to do 3 recipes, I was a little overwhelmed, but you did really great listening to me. Yes?
Is there a banana in this?
Oh, thank you. See, I forgot the banana. I forgot the banana. Thank you very much. There is a banana in this. That's why there are bananas sitting here. And again, you know what? If you forget the banana, it's still delicious. I've done it without bananas, and it's still good. The banana just makes it a traditional smoothie, and it makes it a lot thicker. So banana's a great thickener. And if you don't have a banana, it's just as delicious. It's just not as thick. I do encourage you to only buy organic bananas. Most foods... I encourage organic for everything when you can, but bananas especially. But the good news is more and more supermarkets are giving us bananas that are organic. So, are there any questions? I'm afraid to do this.
Do you guys like it so far? Anyone who's gotten it, do you like it so far? Yeah. Which one's your favorite?
White.
The white? Okay, that sounds almost overwhelming, huh?
No, really, it's tough.
The nice thing about making a smoothie for breakfast is you can put everything in the blender the night before. And then when you wake up in the morning, all you have to do is turn on the blender, and breakfast takes about 12 seconds to make. So you can't beat that. And the good thing about, I said all these bad things about Vitamix, about, what's it called, Vitamix? Anyway, the way you wash it is you just put a little soap in it and turn it on, and it's a high-speed blender and it cleans itself. So that part's good.
I use the bottle brush.
You use a bottle brush? I do too, to get the flax seeds out of the bottom, because flax seeds are very gooey and sticky. I never tried it, but yes, you can put nutritional yeast in anything. It gives it a little cheesy flavor. I like to put it on popcorn. Oh yeah, I'm dripping on the floor here. This is not good. Let me grab that. That rag. Can you?
What do you want?
The orange rag, the yellow rag, right here. Thank you.
Great, we'll put him out in the line right here.
Woo. So I have another joke about a doctor. It's not a vegetarian joke, but it's still funny. A man goes to the doctor and says, "Doctor, I think I'm a pair of curtains." And the doctor says, "Well, come in and pull yourself together." And then another man goes to the doctor and says, "Doctor, I think I'm a deck of cards." And the doctor says, "Well, have a seat and I'll deal with you in a few minutes." What is it about doctor jokes that's so funny? What are we doing? Oh, using it like a tray.
Like a
Isn't that
tray.
smart?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, sir. Say it loudly, please.
How do you dry spinach or greens in general?
Okay, there's a spinach, a lettuce spinner. You've seen them in thrift stores. It's a plastic bowl with like a plastic colander in it and a little lid with a handle. And you basically fill up the bowl with water. You soak the greens in that bowl just by pushing them underwater. And you do that, if a lot of dirt's coming to the top, you want to do that twice. You empty the water and do it again. Otherwise, you just do it once. And then you transfer those greens from that bowl of water into the colander part. Then you put the whole colander part in the bowl, put the lid on, and it spins it. And you spin it until there's a lot of liquid left over. If you go on YouTube, I'm sure there's somebody showing you how to do that. Yes, yes? Let's see if everyone gets first, and if there is left over, then there'll be seconds, okay? If we can see, I'm happy to give you seconds if everybody else gets there first. Are there still people waiting for the green drink? If one of you who's waiting could come up and take this tray, that would be great, and then you could bring it to others who are waiting. Thanks, Miyoko. Appreciate it. Thank you. That'd be great.
Get some questions. Otherwise,
okay.
people will be stagnant.
Who else is waiting for? Anybody not get a green smoothie yet? Oh my goodness.
Your dips are amazing.
Thank you.
The white bean
Okay.
is just been delicious.
Isn't that wonderful? It's, you know what it is? It's that umabashi plum paste that gives it that. It's very expensive. I have to warn you, the umabashi plum paste is expensive. So if you can interest a friend in trying recipes with you, seriously, you might want to split a jar of it because it's going to shock you with how expensive it is. And you don't use a lot of it at once. Thank you. Are there any other questions?
I do the same smoothie only with peanut butter.
You add peanut butter to it?
Yeah, I do that most mornings.
Mango, spinach, and peanut butter?
I do strawberries, banana, peanut butter, and kale.
Did you hear that? I do the same one, but it's mangoes and strawberries and peanut butter, but it's the same one. That's the beauty of vegan cooking. You can try anything. I encourage you, be creative. Whatever fruit you have is the fruit to use. And if you want to add peanut butter, go for it. Did you have a question? No. Thank you.
Very inspiring.
Thank you.
And you know, after being a vegan for over 20 years, I'm thinking, oh, well, I heard it all about the umabashi. I seen it and I never tried it. So
Now you tried it.
thanks to you, now I will.
Thank you. Thank you very much.